Oh, me? This time? This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. Welcome to episode 337. 367?
337.
We've done a lot of these episodes already of the O The Anthem podcast, coming to you from the hashtag OTA LA Studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
We start with sad news out of Washington. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader-Ginsburg passed away over the weekend. Both of us, Rob and I, are both saddened by the news. And right now we're trying to figure out exactly how this country manages to survive in this incredibly fraught atmosphere that we found ourselves in. But before we get into any of that, we figured we'd do what not a whole lot of news coverage seems to have been doing, which is actually talk about Ginsburg's legacy, what she means to the law, to the court, and to America as a whole. So I guess the thing that always stuck with me first about Ginsburg was her legacy in bringing cases to the Supreme Court. She was the first woman, right, who brought a case to the Supreme Court. I can't remember exactly. You're fixing me right now.
Yes, indeed, she was.
And then she brought an additional 2. If I remember correctly, it was like a total of 3 that she brought to the High Court.
Far more than that, but
yes,
3 are like the infamous cases that she brought, and those 3 are a big deal because she was the main litigator, rather than being one of several.
Right.
And it was unheard of at the time for a woman to come and be the spokesperson of a team.
Yeah.
To the court itself. So in the late 60s, mid 60s, wow, maybe earlier than that. I think it was in the late 60s. She basically said, no, I'm a member of the DC Bar. I'm barred to the Supreme Court. That's what it takes. I'm going to be the one who argues this case. I think they need to hear from a woman about women's issues. So she did.
Yeah.
And she continued on after that. But what I think she found, and it kind of goes to the discussion we had before, but it became about her, and that was never her intention. She wanted it to be about, this is the case we are bringing. Mm-hmm. And so if she could not be the person talking,
right, it
was less about her and more about the issue. So she just helped on a team of getting stuff to the Supreme Court.
But I mean, like, if you're a lawyer and you have a case in the Supreme Court,
yes,
it is a huge deal. My grandfather had a case in front of the Supreme Court once, and that's a really big deal. I mean, like, it was in his obituary that he argued in front of the Supreme Court, and to do it multiple times and to even be involved in the periphery on more of those cases, like it's an incredible legacy, and just her sheer determination and force of will. She was in Harvard, where not many women were allowed, and they were all treated like second-class citizens. Specifically told by the dean of Harvard that they were all taking the space of men who should have been there. Yeah. During an opening dinner that welcomed all those women to Harvard.
Did you ever watch Mrs. America?
No, but I heard about the
Phyllis Schlafly story.
Yeah.
Phyllis Schlafly always liked to say she went to Harvard, which is not true. She went to the sister college down the road because Harvard had a no women policy. And Ruth was one of very few women who said, no, I'm going to the actual Harvard. And the reason that Phyllis didn't is because she wanted to avoid that guilt trip of taking up a spot that a man could have taken up. And RBG was just like, I guess RB at that point was just like, no. Yeah. I'm going to Harvard. I'm taking up a spot that any person could have taken up. And if that boy was better than me, he'd be here. But he's not. I'm here. So,
but at the same time, her husband was going through cancer at the time, was it? I can't remember, because I feel like it wasn't cancer. It was because that was more of a death sentence at the time.
Yeah, and he did have cancer later when she was when she was arguing,
he was very sick and unable to go to his classes. Yes. And she went to his classes, took care of him, took care of their child, and made the money to support the family.
Yep.
And you think you're busy.
That's a badass bitch.
Going to law class for 2 people and taking notes and helping him basically pass his law school experience because he's too sick to go.
Yeah, I chose a picture for you of her like ascending up to heaven. But I thought we would be remiss without also a picture of Notorious RBG, of course. And that's how she started to get... I mean, she got that nickname later in life, but that's why she is who she is.
Yeah.
So,
And I sort of brought it up to you before. We kind of went back and forth on it, but she might have been the most important legal mind in feminist work, regardless of whether or not she got into the Supreme Court. Like, if she wasn't elected to the Supreme Court, she would have had an incredible legacy regardless of it.
Well, you mentioned the 3 big cases, and that's because she took her first case up, and they said, all right, we're going to carve out an exception when she was asking for broad equalization. She was like, okay. So she went and got another case that was a different part of the exception, and they created a broad rule of equalization with many little exceptions in the middle. And she was like, okay. I went and found yet another case. And so, like, I highly recommend On the Basis of Sex. I think that was a fantastic recounting of the first case that she took.
Yeah, and her life in law school, too.
Yeah,
and early on. In law school. Yeah.
Was it Notorious RBG? Is that the name of the other movie?
Yeah, the documentary.
And they do a fair job of looking at her life in segments and saying this was her in law school, and then this is her practicing before the Supreme Court, and then becoming a judge and getting to the Supreme Court. And basically why, I want to say it was Reagan? No. Bush the first? Who put her on the court?
Clinton?
Yeah. Was it
93?
93. Yeah. Man. And she had lived a full life of advocacy before she even got to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
But the Notorious RBG documentary did a great job of like, so you think of her as this, and that's why we think she's badass. But let's go back, because she's basically been a badass bitch the entire time she's been alive. And when you start out any documentary with like fuzzy black and white pictures of civil rights advocacy, you're like, oh, this is going to be a good story. Okay, yeah. She was not on Brown versus Board of Education. There was an earlier case, too, that she was not arguing before the Supreme Court because women were just not allowed to at that point. But she was on the case earlier that got there. Just a lifetime of advocating for people who were not white, Jewish, upper middle class, I think New Yorkers. She's from New York originally, I think. Yeah. Just basically like, it doesn't matter. It's not me. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Equality is equality. I've fought for women to be equal. I fight for everyone to be treated equally. And it's very sad.
And I mean, like, just within her lifetime, like me and you were both in our mid-30s. And I feel like while things haven't been as good as they possibly can be as far as treating women equally to men, the stark difference between how our lives have lived and the life that she was born into and where she ends. Yeah. It's just an incredible, you as a woman, you couldn't have your own bank account without a man. You couldn't sign a mortgage. There was so much that was tied to your worth based off of the man you were with, as opposed to what your worth stood alone. And, regardless of where you stood on her politics, I think nobody would argue that there was a better legal mind in our country's history. Yeah. And when she got out of law school, she had to fight and struggle to get any legal work because it was so impossible for a woman to step into the realms of a man in that regard, and just shatters through every single thing that's put in her way and every little impediment. And just this little 5'1" lady who looks like grandma, is just like the toughest of them all.
I was trying to pull up the her age at death,
87,
but my computer is deciding it's not going to work very well. So if we're a little delayed, apologies on that. I don't know what's going on here right now. But so at 87, that means she's the same age as my dad. She was born in 1933. No, she's a little older than my dad. My dad was born in 37. She was born in 33, right? Yeah. And I love the example I give people about my dad is when he was a teenager, a plane made an emergency landing outside of his town, and everyone ran out to see it because they were amazed that there was something heavier than a balloon that could fly. Yeah. And my dad has now seen that, also space travel, also going to the moon, then taking me to Florida to see the space shuttle, which is like, oh, it goes up and comes down, and then 3 weeks later, we can send it right back up again if we want to. Yeah. And now we're about to send astronauts back to the moon, theoretically, back to the moon and on to Mars. And there's a likelihood that if we do make Mars by 2024, there's a high likelihood that he will have gone his entire life from human beings can fly in a metal object to
Mars.
Human beings on Mars. And that's a good example for me because I think technology, it's easy to look at how it spreads across.
Right.
But, I mean, the rights of people also in 1933. And you think like, oh, 33, that's relatively modern. I'm sure it was. No, absolutely not. Like, women were little better than property at that point.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into all of the intricacy of it, but the whole veil and father giving you away at the wedding, it's because you belong to him and he is handing you off to the next man that is then going to own you.
Right.
Or control you, I guess. Not really own, but possess. Yeah. And she basically was like, I like the pomp and circumstance of it all. She was a beautiful woman and knew how to dress well and all of those things, but also like, no, that's cool. I'll keep that part of it. What I don't want is I
also want to be this.
I'd also like to have a bank account. Yeah. And my husband's got really crap credit. Why can't I get a mortgage? Like, I don't know. He was sick and didn't go to his classes, and I went to his classes and mine also. And
But I mean, like, so not too long ago we had the passing of John Lewis as well, and I feel like what's important about these moments is just sort of thinking about it in the scope of the lives of these people in a before and after sort of sense. Because, John Lewis is literally on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. He's in the history books as part of the fight for civil rights.
Yeah.
That is in the beginning of his lifetime. And everything that has happened since, and, before too, but I mean, like, obviously, like, sort of as a bookend moment, like, that is a huge transformative moment in the history of this country as far as race relations goes. And I'm sure that RBG was very happy with what she had been able to be a force of accomplishment for on the women's movement in the same regard. And to the point where, if we were our age in the 30s, we would probably have a very different opinion of women just because of how it is bestowed upon us. And I feel bad because, like, we seem to forget that history is of its time sometimes.
Yeah.
So if you were just like, well, my wife isn't going to that thing. My wife is not allowed to do that. Like, that would have been totally acceptable in the 30s and wouldn't have even made somebody look twice.
To not say that would have been weird. Being like, wait, what?
You're going to let your wife go out dancing by herself?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
No,
but,
absolutely.
now it's just the fact that I can't even think about doing something where women wouldn't be allowed is kind of weird to me. Like, if I showed up on set and there wasn't a single woman there, I would be like, this is weird. Like, it's unusual that it's all men, and sometimes it happens you're on like a 4-person crew and it's just 4 guys and whatever. But I'm saying, like, from my perspective, I show up to work. I've worked with women my entire life. To show up and not see women in some sort of aspect of that would be very weird to me. But that wouldn't have been the case when Ruth was born.
Yes.
Like,
no. Wait, what are you doing out of the kitchen?
Yeah.
Back in the kitchen.
Right.
What are you doing out here? I think it's interesting that you bring up John, last name? Lewis, yes. Because both of them started their early career advocating for rights. And the last thing not the last thing, but what John Lewis was kind of infamous for at the end of his life was being a very old guy and trying to operate his phone by himself because they had occupied the floor of the house to stop a vote from happening. I don't remember. Was it the Anti-Affordable Care Act vote? I want to say the one to roll back. I think
so, yeah. Like the first one.
So he starts out as civil rights advocate marching, and we remember him from the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Ends his life also just trying to stop the rollback of rights of people. Ruth Bader Ginsburg starts her life advocating to enhance rights for people, and very much the same, ends her life as like the last bulwark against the rolling tide of oppression.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate nature of everything is I think we're going to see that happen with a lot of people. That is what is coming as our aging civil rights leaders. Civil rights meaning obviously not just by color, but also by gender and by national origin and all of these things that we've had to address.
Yeah.
As those early leaders start to age, I'm seeing a lot of them being on this. one of the oldest Native American rights leaders, has been saying, literally, you can look at him from like 1949, and he's giving the same speech in 2020 as he was giving in 1949. Same guy, a lot older, just doing the same thing. And you're like, I always like when you're like looking at, like when you watch Notorious RBG. Yeah.
And you see old clips of her as a lawyer. Yeah. Like fighting for a case in front of the Supreme Court or something like that. And you recognize that she is like, I'm trying to put the right word on this. Like, it's just so fascinating sometimes to hear people say things that today seem totally normal, but back then sounded completely absurd. Like, why are you here saying these things? Like, a woman should be treated equally, kind of thing.
But
like
you watch that documentary, and we hear what she's arguing, and we're like, yeah, of course.
And the 2020 construct, we put it together.
The men in the back gallery are losing their minds. Like, somebody tell this woman to get back home. What is she doing here?
They're inhaling their cigarettes so hard that it goes into.
and you are just like, oh, they're real upset about all of this. They're going to go home and beat their wives because she's being so uppity out here. And, but that she's still doing that.
Yeah.
Now.
Until this weekend.
Well,
yeah.
Her latest dissent in whatever her last dissent was in, I guarantee you had a lot of the same tonality as those early Supreme Court arguments.
Well, and I mean, if anything, she was sort of known as the queen of dissents in the circles of the Supreme Court. And when we look at, now we're at the part where she's in the Supreme Court. If we look at her history as a Supreme Court justice, I think largely the dissents are something that are well known because of how fiercely worded they were.
And also that she would sometimes dissent in cases that people would not have expected her to dissent in.
Yeah.
I think that that's a little bit why I feel like I have something in common with her, because I feel like she was just, even from an early time on the court, she seemed like just a little bit crotchety. She's just like, no, I'm shutting this down. Strongly worded dissent here. Like, Ruth, this is something you believe in. Nah, didn't do it right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna dissent. We're gonna go do it again and then bring it back and we'll talk about it. And I think that's the legacy her of the court.
Yeah.
And there's a quote from her, I think it's her latest book, which of course she has like 4, and the ones in the later years are Ruth Bader-Ginsburg, co-written by where somebody just goes and interviews her, and
ghostwritten.
Which, by the way, I want to. That's how I would like to write a book. I'd like somebody just listen to me talk for 18 hours and then write a book about it. But she basically said that people throughout judiciary history have discounted dissent, but the dissent is instruction to the future.
Yeah.
That someone, when they're writing a majority opinion 10 years from now, will look back and say, Justice Bader-Ginsburg, in her dissent in 1998, said, and she was absolutely right in her holding in that opinion.
Right.
And we are finding today that she was right then, she's been right since then, and this court is finally recognizing that she was right. The dissent in Plessy versus Ferguson, that the court case that said separate but equal is fine. Brown versus Board of Education looked at the dissent there and said, it wasn't okay then. It hasn't been okay since. And finally, the court is going to acknowledge that the dissent was correct. This is not okay.
Yeah.
And we need to make changes about it. And so I think for her,
and I mean, oftentimes gives a legal framework for a challenge to what has just happened, which is like little breadcrumbs to the people who are out there fighting to get cases on the Supreme Court, because there's a whole a cottage industry of people who are lawyers who
just
try and get things to the Supreme Court.
I think hers were less of that. I think more of like Roberts.
Well, I mean, that was more of the cottage industry of Supreme Court lawyers bringing things to the court has been more of a recent thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's been more of a thing since she joined the bench than it was prior to her joining the bench.
Well, we in the pre-show talk, we talked about Scalia a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of Scalia's dissents were, let me lay out for you a 9-point plan on how you could have conformed this to the Constitution. Her dissents also they do follow the law, but they're also a lot of like, this is not right, and you can see facially it is not right. We as a society have not embraced the fact that this is not right. But there will come a time when we will all look at ourselves and be like, how did we let this go for so long?
Right.
And when that time comes, here's the structure on how you can address a law and make it comply with
To
the
that
Constitution.
regard, at 9:00, we're all meeting with our masks.
Well, now you're getting into
We're
my
going to break
position.
into the National Archive.
Yeah, you're getting into my position now. But so having spent what 22 minutes now.
Well,
go. Do you? I mean, if you had more. go
No.
ahead,
Just one point that will bring us into the next part here, and it's that she dies, and it is 20 seconds about her legacy on whatever news show you're watching.
Yeah.
And then immediately into the politics of the situation. And I often say the politics is like team sports now. And this moment in particular felt very much like I imagine Rob felt yesterday when he found out that Saquon Barkley tore his ACL. And he's just like, oh God, how am I going to overcome this moment?
Oh,
like
yeah,
it
I
all
found out
becomes
this morning. I didn't
well, I mean, like it all becomes about the moment where you find out and you're just like, oh fuck,
Yeah.
something terrible has happened to my team.
If it
And
hadn't
then all of a
happened,
sudden-
I'd be more surprised if it hadn't happened the last 3 consecutive seasons that my number 1 draft pick went down with an injury in the early weeks. But sorry Saquon, by the way, that's my fault. I shouldn't have drafted you.
Kiss of death.
If I had gone with someone else, it's like being on the Madden cover. It's just not good luck for you.
I can't take Adam Thielen in the first round. It's got to be somebody. Sorry, it's you, Saquon.
Yeah, hey, listen, I bumped him to round 3 just to be safe. But yeah,
No, but I mean, like it just felt like McConnell was like picking up the phone, like Mitch McConnell, we're gonna have a vote.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and I think the ironic thing is it's not just the politicians. The news was doing it too. There is a chance that Trump spent more time honoring her life than CNN did. Because I'm pretty sure the first story I saw on CNN was like, Ruth Bader Ginsburg dead at 87.
yeah.
The question now becomes, and I'm like, you spent no time on this life of a very important person.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I
they're
would say
looking for
that
ratings.
I would say that on the TV side they did a good job of it, but it was constantly like it. So like sometimes when you watch a television show, you can feel when an executive said nothing is happening. Can you make something happen right now? Like we're about to go to a commercial break. Can you make something happen? Because it feels a little bit dead. And we don't want people to like go into a commercial break and be like, this sucks and turn it off.
Yeah.
So like,
Don't be sad.
All of a sudden, 30 seconds before a commercial break, something really big happens. Like there's an aspect of watching cable news right now, which is we need to keep you here. So like, I turned it on CNN for a little while after the news broke and I was watching, and Anderson Cooper would do 15, 20 minutes talking to somebody who knew her or, her life or something like that. But like, it felt like every 15 or 20 minutes they had to be like, let's get over to Jeffrey Toobin and talk about the political implications of the, like,
And
it was
they
like,
go to commercial?
we're not gonna like just make this a all night tribute to RGB. We're going to pepper in a little bit of politics just to keep people like engaged and like angry. And
part of my problem was
enraged
also I didn't go to the news first. I didn't go to the news until Saturday morning, Sunday morning, whatever, the morning after. I was looking online, and the stories online that were popping up were literally just like Ruth Bader's passed. The Republic is about to fall. It was this shared byline, if you will, between death of both this justice and the Republic itself,
Right.
Which is absolutely positively on the agenda.
Well, I mean, you've been saying it for years. Do everything you can to protect Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yes.
And by the way, we talked about QAnon a couple weeks ago, and the internet pajama people came after us because we did so.
Yeah.
But I would like to say that one of the big QAnon hoaxes that have been going on for a while now is that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was secretly dead,
Yes.
and that the secret cabal of Democrats have been like trying to keep that news from getting out.
Yes, we got to keep her alive.
If that secret cabal was keeping this news out of the way, why couldn't we have done it for another 45 days or so? I mean, like, seriously.
Well,
This goddamn cabal is terrible.
apparently,
They can't do anything right.
apparently, in her last conversation with her daughter,
Yeah.
she felt like a failure because she died before the election, and I'm like,
You did too much. You should not be.
how much burden must one 87-year-old woman, quadruple cancer survivor, bear that she's like, I wish I could have lasted another 45 days. Keep me on the ventilator.
I'm not done until I bring this cross up to the top of Mount Sinai.
Yeah,
You're good.
It's fine. Thank you for your service. But also, maybe we should address why the death of one person puts in jeopardy the entirety of the republic.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way.
No.
But yet here we are.
Yes.
Now, in the past, when a Supreme Court justice has died, and I'm going to include Scalia in this because I feel as though we didn't even have such a truncated schedule when it was an election year previously.
Yeah.
2016 was an election year. Scalia died in, I believe, March of that year. And
it was 11 months before.
So January of that year. Then that makes even more sense because that means there was basically 2 months of honoring his memory, speculating about nomination before Merrick Garland was nominated.
Yeah.
To go to sit in the seat. And that's when the whole conversation of like, no, we're not going to hear a nomination.
There's a presidential election this year. We have
election later on. We're going to have to let the American people decide about that.
Right.
And Trump has announced that he will announce a replacement by Saturday, which means that not yet 7 days will have passed since Ruth Bader Ginsburg died that we will have a replacement nominated. Now, I'm not going to say anything too controversial in this episode. You guys got enough of that last episode. But I'm just going to say...
Thank God for that.
If you decide to go out in March, here is an anthem I've come up with for you. If they nominate, we conflagrate. If they confirm, we burn. I think that just concisely puts how we need to deal with this situation. And I realize I've been a little bit of a sesquarian in that. And it's an inside joke. For those of you who may know, conflagrate means to burn. So if you nominate, we burn. If you confirm, we burn. We found a way to rhyme 2 words that mean burn with the 2 steps of a Supreme Court justice nomination.
Yes.
So, but a replacement will be nominated by Saturday. So, yeah.
And there's a lot of talk about the Republicans are going to nominate a woman because it would be totally disrespectful to her legacy if we did. So that's what they care about is the legacy here.
To be fair, a Republican nominated the first woman to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, Senator Day.
It's not unheard of. However, I would argue that the woman that they nominate will not be like the woman that left.
No. Well, so the early favorites, Amy Coney Barrett, who has been on the short list a couple times for Trump, and she was a clerk for Scalia and head of the Notre Dame Law School, I think.
To be fair, though, she's on the short list until Trump was like, wait, this is a woman? No. Okay. And they moved on to the men on the list. And now he's like, I guess we got to get a woman.
One of the ones that, in particular, I find will be a real stab in the back of RBG if it goes through.
Phyllis Schlafly.
is Ivanka Trump.
Would not be surprised by either of those. I mean, Phyllis Schlafly is dead. But other than that, I would not be surprised if he nominated her and he's like, Mr. President, she's dead. Yeah. That's all right. Bader Ginsburg's been dead for a year. The ghost can... Ruth Bader Ginsburg's been dead for a year. They've been keeping her alive in secret.
Another favorite, though, apparently, is Barbara Lagoa, who is in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And she was 2 recent things that she was instrumental in here. Florida, in the 2016 election, voted to allow felons after they've paid their debt to society to be able to vote again.
And she blocked that, I bet.
She didn't block it per se, but basically the governor said that they had to pay fines in order to rejoin, like to get enrolled in voting again. And there were arguments that was a poll tax.
Yes.
And then she was the head of the court that ruled that nope, not a poll tax. Yeah, not a poll tax. I don't know what you're talking about here. And there was another one in Florida here just recently. I can't remember offhand, but yeah, she's been involved in some very far right decisions on lower courts. So
what you're telling me, Corey, is that while Democrats continue to nominate center of the road to center left judges, the Republicans just continue to go as far out into the QAnon community as possible and bring those judges onto the Supreme Court.
I mean, I will say this. This one, to me, seems like a further reach than Gorsuch or Kavanaugh. Gorsuch... Well, so here's my...
Kavanaugh was buddies with the guy going out.
Well, yes, but I'm saying, like, Gorsuch was for a conservative crowd, a good and upstanding jurist, and I think that in his time on the bench, short as it may have been so far, he has sort of fallen in line with Roberts and has sort of found a place to be, young and just following in with the crowd on the court. Kavanaugh has been fighting a little bit more. Like he goes off of the crowd a little bit more.
Well, Kavanaugh is the kind of justice that you want to go home and have a beer with, or 10.
Yeah, forget about
40.
what happens afterwards.
Yeah,
never talk about it again. Definitely don't put it in your diary.
I like to have a beer. All right, everybody likes to have a beer.
I like beer. Okay.
By the way, no one remembers what that is. Yeah. And Corey is of this mind that somehow this nomination is going to change the Republic. Nobody has any idea what I'm talking about. So, yeah.
We're at very strange times. The hypocrisy in the GOP, though, is just absurd in this whole thing. Because Lindsey Graham, amongst others, who's the head of the judiciary and would be in charge of bringing a vote to order, said in March of this year, hold me to it. The next justice should be voted on by the new president or whoever wins the election or something like that.
Oh, you mean back when he thought for sure there wasn't going to be another one to nominate this year? Yeah.
But that's changed. Now, Collins and Murkowski have come out and said that they don't think it's right to vote on this before the election. But Collins specifically, who's losing big in Maine right now, has not been super clear about what she means by that. So it's I don't think we should have a vote, but if we happen to have a vote, then I have to do it because I'm a senator.
Yeah.
Is that the ruling, or is it like, I don't think it's right to vote before the presidential election happens, but if this happens in the lame duck, then I'm totally down to vote for it?
You folks may remember her as the one who said, I think that there may be things that we need to look into here about the impeachment, and then voting against impeachment, despite the fact that she essentially acknowledged that crimes were committed.
Oh, and then Donald Trump learned his lesson. And then fast forward to, no, he didn't.
Not at all.
He didn't learn it at all.
But it doesn't matter because it won't change how she votes in this particular situation.
Well, I mean, the question is, if Collins and Murkowski vote no, regardless of who it is, like assuming that they are feeling strong about this and feel like it's not the right thing to do and find a backbone about it, you have to find two potential other votes to break the tie, the proverbial tie. There's been a lot of people talking about Mitt Romney might be the person because he's the one who voted for impeachment, the only Republican to vote in favor of impeachment.
And he also has said that when you make a rule, you live by the rule. Mm-hmm. You made a rule.
Yeah.
We live by the rule.
He has, and it's funny, Utah holds their politicians to the truth more than almost any other state in the country, because those Mormons don't play with lying.
Could be
problematic. You can't be Lindsey Graham in Utah. It just doesn't work.
No, well, I mean, they don't like his kind in Utah anyway, Corey. If you know,
allegedly,
what I mean.
allegedly, wink, wink. Read into it. Allegedly.
Yes. But it's very.
And I mean, the other one, just real quick,
go ahead.
Is that Mark Kelly is beating out what's her face in Arizona. But hypothetically, under the Arizona Constitution, he can be in on November 30th.
Yes.
If he wins. So if
they are sending him and they need to seat him in the Senate by November 30th.
Right.
Because he's actually replacing John McCain, not in a new. He does get a full. No, he doesn't get a full term. He only gets 4 years. 2 years?
He gets a full term.
I don't. John McCain wasn't up this year, was he?
I think he was.
They just started the election early to fill a seat.
No, because it's like they aligned it with the. I think he was going to be up this year either way if he lived.
Okay.
So it was basically like, something about if you're put into the role, you can be voted out by the person who wins, like immediately or something.
Right.
Like,
And
it's
they-
something
and
about the state constitution in Arizona, which is different.
Okay, so that's what it is. It's that they appointed someone.
Yeah.
And that person must go home if Mark Kelly shows up on November 30th and says, hey, my seat.
Yeah.
Because he was actually voted for by the people.
Right.
So he gets to start early on his term.
Well, and I believe most state constitutions have something written in there where you start when everyone is sworn at the same time. Like,
Yes.
usually there's a day where everyone is sworn into office.
And that would be January the 3rd for House of Representatives, usually somewhere around January the 7th or 8th for the Senate, leading into the 20th. Because the first thing they do is then to accept the results of the presidential election, confirm them, and then we have our president come in on the 20th.
Right.
But some states, like Arizona, have the rule that if someone has died and we nominate a replacement, the moment your election is confirmed by the state, you are now the senator from this state, and you can actually go.
And I think that's a rule more to the line of if McCain, hypothetically, if McCain had just gotten reelected and then he died, and then it would have been 5.5 years until the next election, they might have put in somebody in his seat for a time being, done a special election
And
where
replace that
you
person.
only run for the remaining term of the thing, and then as soon as you win the election, you take the place of the person who was appointed.
And to be fair,
And I guess they didn't figure that this would ever happen, where it was like lined up so perfectly with like a regular election. But
also before 1980, probably they would have just said leave the seat empty. But McConnell's like, nope, send me a Republican, please. I must have a Republican. And then so we have a couple of Republican questions, we have a couple of Republican seats. And we have a lot of Republican hypocrisy. That's the thing I want people to understand is that forget about Mark Kelly in Arizona, which hopefully he wins and he's leading. So hopefully that holds. But the fact that you can, with a straight face, come before a camera and say, I know what I said in 2016. Doesn't matter. It's not the same thing.
yeah.
When in 2016, it was March. And now we are in October for the nomination process.
Well, and the problem too is that every argument that they want to come up with for the reason why it should be allowed now and shouldn't have been allowed then is all things that were happening then.
Yes.
Like Ted Cruz made a statement saying that there is no way that I can constitutionally allow a seat to be open on the Supreme Court with this particular election ahead.
Yes.
Because there might be something that goes wrong with this election,
Like
and we're
Bush
going
Gore.
to need to have the Supreme Court to rule on it.
Yeah.
So we would need the full Supreme Court to be able to do that.
But
that could have been the case in 2016 as
Yes.
well. It was a very close election that could have possibly gone legal if it was even closer than it ended up being.
Why?
In the Electoral College.
I was
yeah.
gonna say closer in what way? Because Hillary won the popular vote.
If there was a dispute about 10,000 people in Wisconsin, for instance, that could have ended up in a court case that would have gone to the Supreme Court, and we would have had only 8 justices at that point because of no Merrick Garland,
Yes.
or no Scalia, I guess, in that regard.
I also want to let you know, Corey, that I have become a conservative reactionary in some things because I found myself replying to someone who is calling for the abolishment of the Electoral College by saying, hey, now, we have to worry about the tyranny of the majority as well because, states like Delaware, Rhode Island will never see a presidential candidate again. They'll only be in New York, California, Illinois. And then I came back to that conversation like 2 days later and I was like, I don't know what was wrong with me the other day. Just to be clear, I'm calling for guillotines and white terror. I'm just saying it. Electoral College ain't going to fix this, but some guillotines would really, really fix this. But yeah, this is I want everyone to take me in and to take me at my word when I say this will not matter. They will nominate. They will confirm. Schumer is threatening to pack the court like FDR tried to do. We're going to nominate 6.
I would like to piggyback off my Newsom's a pussy comments from last week and step on top of that with the Schumer's a fucking idiot comments right now because, like, all we're trying to do is win an election that in normal days would be incredibly difficult just because of the polarization of the country and how the Electoral College works and everything like that. Luckily, we've had Trump stepping on rake after rake after rake to our benefit, yet still people are not wild about the guy who nobody should legitimately be wild about.
Yeah,
but
I mean, honestly, there's nothing to be wild about, really.
I mean, the fact that he is a living, breathing person who looks capable of leading a government of some kind is the low bar at which I'm operating at this
brings
moment.
forward a plan to address the current pandemic that we are in.
Potentially able to bring in other people who do good things as opposed to like Jared Kushner. Like, I'm sure that somewhere in Biden's Rolodex, he has like a real winner to be like, deputy communications director or something.
God, let's hope.
But the current menagerie of Trump lunatics out there is just it's too much. It's too much for me to deal with right now. I'm sorry, but Schumer making this more about how Republicans have to hold their nose and vote for Trump because he's going to give you justices is exactly not what I need right now. I would prefer you hammer this after, McConnell's going to try and shove this through a lame duck, right?
Yeah, of course he is.
So if you get to the point where you have election results, right? And you see, to some degree, you probably have an idea of election results because it's going to take a little while longer in this one.
Yeah.
But a week later, 2 weeks later, you have a pretty good idea of what we're looking at.
Hey, Mitch is losing by 40 points on election day.
Say the Democrats have, something outrageous happens. They're 60 seats or something like that, 60-40 or something. And the House is huge again. And, Biden wins the presidency and it's a clear blue wave and it just decimates everything. That would be the time to say, hey, Mitch, do you really want to die on this ship? Because if you vote for this one guy or one girl who is completely unqualified and you're trying to shove it through in an election year just because you're going to get a justice, I will fucking hammer you so hard with literally everything I can. You want to talk about more?
Wait till January 10th.
Wait until we have an actual election result or something like that. If they try and do it right before the election, then that's, maybe that's a time where you can have this statement. The day or two after her death is not the time to be having this statement because people are freaking the fuck out. Yeah. People who don't know anything about the Supreme Court or any of the justices know that Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a big deal and her death is a big deal and the bells are ringing and, chaos is in the streets kind of thing. Let's not fucking give the Republicans a reason to go out there and vote in mass.
Also, maybe don't let Mitch, while he still has the majority, know that if it changes, we're going to go hog wild on you. Yeah. Because maybe he'll go hog wild on you right now. I don't know. Obviously the Democrats have the House, so there's nothing purse string related that they could do. But there's a lot of judicial seats still unsat.
Yeah.
And he could be like, hey, for the next 3 months, we're going to fill the judiciary.
Well, how about this? I can't work. I can't go to work.
Yeah.
Until a production company gets insurance to shoot the thing that they're trying to do.
Listen, hippie,
I can't go to work.
Mitch don't care about you. He ain't worried about it.
We're busting out every single. Just everyone get back to Washington. We got to vote on a Supreme Court justice. It's motherfucker. 20% of people are about to lose their house. Are not eating. They're figuring out how they can not eat as much as humanly possible so that they can pay for rent. So
on the plus side, though,
out.
They may not be able to even go back to Washington because in 9 days, the government's going to shut down because there's no funding for it at this point.
Yeah.
Which is also, I would say, arguably related to the Schumer comments that Mitch is like, no, you don't come at me, bro. I come at you. This is how it works. And they probably will get a deal to keep it open. But he's like, I control what happens here. Yeah. It is a dick measuring contest in which 300 million Americans are stuck there saying, yeah, Mitch, no, you're the big guy. Yeah.
Maybe focus on the important things. He's like, I am focusing on the important things.
You see this?
I don't give a fuck about you. I don't give a fuck about you. To me, Kentucky is always the most incredible state because Mitch has been in power for so long there between the Congress and the Senate.
Yep.
And every year he gets worse. And every year he gets if you look at the rankings of how much money people in the Senate and the Congress made and how much of that Mitch has made since he became a politician.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, Pelosi is at the top of that list of highest net worth for any congressman.
She had
kind of
family
thing.
Money though, and she
also married rich.
Yeah.
I mean that she didn't. She was rich prior to becoming a congressman. She didn't need to do anything.
Listen, her family robbed the city of Baltimore for generations to give her that intergenerational wealth that she took into her marriage with her very rich husband.
Quick aside, there was some Zoom call between all the former mayors of Baltimore, and they're talking about all the things that Brandon Scott is proposing, and they're just like, I think that's a really bad idea. It's like, do literally anything this group think doesn't want to, like, literally every single decision that SRB, O'Malley, Dixon, like all these living mayors, other than Pugh, who's in prison, we're able to construct here. I'm just like, you guys were so wrong for so long, and like maybe I'm just going to vote against whatever you're doing. It's like one of those things, like if I hear McConnell say like, we're going to give all sound mixers named Corey $500 a week, I'm just going to be like,
no,
something's up.
Yeah, don't do that.
Something's up.
Nope. Yeah,
this
honestly,
benefits me. I don't know why.
If I'm Brandon
Scott,
not
right.
If I'm Brandon Scott, I use that as my think tank because I'm like, all right, guys, so here's my new proposal. What do you think? Great idea.
Back to the drawing board. Let's not do this one.
Yeah, and just if they come in and they're like, Brandon.
See, the problem with that, though,
this may bankrupt the city. You may ruin your reputation. All right, okay. Cool. Thanks, guys.
I was honestly thinking about that. I was gonna put that into the tweet that I constructed earlier about it, but I thought that if you give the game away like that, then they would know, and they would start going like, "Oh no, that's a horrible idea," and then Brandon Scott wouldn't be good enough to know when they're lying to him. And
well, to be fair, we've watched O'Malley 8 years as mayor, 8 years as governor.
Yeah,
got a good idea when he's lying.
Yeah. All the time.
Yeah, I was just gonna say if he's talking, basically he's lying. So I make that assumption. But yeah, so Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It's a tragedy that she has been lost. Again, also a tragedy that all of Western civilization hangs on the life of one quadruple cancer survivor, 87-year-old woman. Maybe we should address that part of the problem first. And we're trying to. And even the unprecedented action of one of the oldest scientific magazines in the country is happening at this point. And I want everyone to understand that everything we talk about after this pales in comparison to the importance of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death and her impact. However, there are things we need to talk about, like the fact that Scientific American, in 175 years, has never taken a side in an election. And yet, as you can see at this tweet, right to my side here, for the first time in their history, they are endorsing a presidential candidate because they find that the move against science at this point, it's necessary to back the other person. Yeah. That it's literally a matter of life and death. You must vote for science and for Joe Biden. Yeah. It's
scary times.
It's I look at that and I say that, that the board of editors was sitting around like, guys, it's been 175 years. Yeah. No one ever got a unanimous electoral college decision after George Washington did. There was one person who stood by in every, it really only counted for like the first 4 after that. Yeah. But there was something called the Golden Age where John Quincy Adams and the one that came before him, who was Monroe, didn't even have a candidate run against them nationally. Yeah. Like they had small local candidates, but no national party against them. And an elector who was there to vote for Monroe or for Quincy Adams voted for some other candidate just to keep them from having a unanimous vote, because they said no man deserves a unanimous vote. George Washington, only person to have a unanimous vote in the Electoral College. That's essentially what the board of the Science magazine has done forever. They've just said there is no reason for us to wade into these political waters. Yeah. We're above this. We're men of science and men of reason. And that group of men and women, I'm sure at this point, sat around the table and they're like, so Biden, yeah? Biden? Are we on board? We're all on board with this? Okay, yeah, let's do this. Let's endorse a candidate for the first time in history. No one's surprised. New York Times, Wall Street Journal, they're going to back somebody. Probably Biden. Yeah. Just taking a guess. Washington Eagle is going to back Trump, yeah. Washington Post, probably good. You've heard of one of those magazines or one of those news publications. That'll give you some relative idea of what they publish.
Crankshaft magazine is going to endorse Donald Trump.
I'm gonna guess Breitbart is gonna get the gonna give the old Trump endorsement.
Well, they're a independent news organization, but yes they're gonna fuck it.
He's got the support of two entire news networks, Fox and ONN. So OAN. OAN.
Yeah.
I forgot the American part of that.
One
Sorry.
American network, yeah.
That's right, yeah. But too bad everyone else is distracted by the pedophilia being peddled by Netflix, Corey.
Yeah.
How dare they?
I know. I was shocked that rarely do I ever watch a movie that has so much controversy built up inside of it, where I say to myself, there was literally nothing about this movie that's controversial. It's so unbelievable that we are in this point where a poster basically is... You ever go to a movie with a friend and you're like
Nope.
looking at the poster?
That has not happened in a long time, Corey. So
Well,
long I don't remember it.
Back in the olden days, you go to the multiplex with a buddy, and you're trying to figure out
the talkies. Are you talking about a talkie? Yeah, I remember going to the talkies at some point.
You would look at a bunch of posters and you would say like, oh, I don't want to go to that one because I don't like that guy, or like, oh, I'm not. This looks like a noir cop film, and I don't want to do that, or like you make judgments based off the posters. It's basically like the whole world.
When's the last time you saw a noir cop film?
I'm just saying, like, you would see the I'm just saying something easily identifiable by the poster. Big action movie.
Corey's stepping back to Sin City, 2007. Like, I don't want to see
Fast and the Furious. You're seeing Fast and the Furious. You're just like, oh, it's an action movie,
Yes.
So many people decided that this movie was clearly just about molesting children or something like that, because why else would they be wearing these outfits?
And by the way,
so many other people just joined in without knowing anything about the movie, without seeing the movie, and yeah, we did a live stream on it, and
it's not.
I don't get it. Like,
no. So we were trying to come up with a cover for our live stream.
Yeah.
And we eventually came up with the image that you see to Corey's left, your right now. And there was a discussion we had about how much to blur the poster.
Yeah.
Because clearly that's what was becoming controversial. And then after watching the movie, I'm like, we shouldn't have blurred the poster.
Yeah.
I posted one that didn't have a blurred poster because I assumed that. And I was right. Just like it's a bunch of housefrauds, which is a term I use liberally. I'll say liberally during our discussion about it. But just saying, here's this thing. I'm going to do no research about it. Instead, what I'm going to do is act irrationally and jump to a conclusion that my local QAnon meeting has pushed me towards, because pedophiles are everywhere. There's literally a NASCAR race of white windowless vans going around my block, just waiting for my little Johnny to step out on the curb so they can snatch him up.
Pedophilia to me feels like it happened in your small town.
Yeah.
Stories of the early 90s. Like, it used to be that you would watch a Dateline or 2020 or whatever, and it would just be like a small town just like the one you live in. And then like all the housewives would just be like, oh my God, we live in a small town just like the one we live in.
That's
like,
what we said. Yes.
And then it's just like somebody would break into houses and murder children. And then you'd be like, oh my God, this one thing that has happened once in the history of this country is now happening in a small town just like mine. And then people would become panicked that, like, we have to get locks for the windows because Johnny might be stabbed by some maniac in the middle of the night. You know, like, it's so preposterous. But
you listen, Corey, it's not like 3/4 of the population of a major city on the East Coast fled to the suburbs because of stories exactly like what you were describing right there.
That's true.
Hi, fans in Towson, White Marsh,
Timonium,
Montgomery County. Yeah.
Anne Arundel County.
That's not you at all. There's literally 2 towns across the line called Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn, and people will correct you about which one they are from. I honestly don't remember which one is which. Is it Brooklyn Park that's in the city?
No. Brooklyn Park's
in the county.
Yeah, in Anne Arundel County.
And Brooklyn is in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. People will correct you like, oh, you're from Brooklyn, Maryland?
No. Whoa. Brooklyn Park.
And the transition between the two is an intersection where there is a real shitty 7-Eleven. And you're like, oh. So I'm gonna stop seeing the very discount literally by the hour hotels.
Literally nothing changes between the two parts of town, but it's just like, no. Brooklyn's in the city. I'm not fucking with that.
My ancestors fled the county 2 generations ago. All right. Yes. after they unredlined our neighborhood, we had no choice but to make our way.
Well, a black person bought a house in the community, and then we had to sell for less, and then that's the rest of that story.
Racist? There's nothing racist about that.
Then we bought a nicer house in the suburbs where Eisenhower said it would be a bastion away from the awfulness of the city.
And now you're about to elect Joe Biden, and MS-13 is going to move right in next door. We're going to turn it into a trap house.
Just imagine the day after the election. It's just like you're reading your paper. It's like Joe Biden elected president. You just look across the street, like right across the yard, and it's just like MS-13 with guns, just like, oh, hey, neighbor, just moving into the block.
Okay. Stay with me for a second.
Are we doing a short about this?
While we're home, we should see if Rob and Maggie will let us shoot in their neighborhood and see if we can convince the neighbors to allow us to just basically have, and Rob can do it. He's a good-looking guy. He looks like an all-American guy.
Yeah.
Walk out and be like, November 2nd, I guess January 19th, 2021. And he walks out and he waves to his nice neighbor, his smiling white neighbors across the street. And then January 20th, 2021, and he walks out and just gangbangers on every corner. I think that'd be good.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Hey,
MS-13 everywhere.
Trademark. Can't take it. That's my idea.
Can't take an idea. I don't know.
Looking at you. I feel like that's a college humor thing.
Probably.
Anyway, so because I haven't tired of talking about Trump, which is not true. I absolutely have, but
because that's all the news.
Just keeps happening. I also work in a business where TikTok is important, so this is a big deal to me. I don't know. I suggested this, and Corey actually sent the tweet, so I assume that for you, the Trump aspect of it was a big deal. For me, the TikTok aspect of it was a big deal. But
I mean, the Trump aspect of it to me was kind of here nor there.
Okay.
It was important in the sense that his actions led to all of this that went afterwards.
Yeah.
But to me, the interest I had in the story was the business side of it, which is all of a sudden TikTok, which is this incredibly valuable property, which makes money hand over fist, is for sale. And how much does this cost? Like usually,
didn't want to be for sale.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying when YouTube sold to Google, YouTube wanted to sell to Google.
Using that same Rob and Maggie example, Rob went across the street and sold his neighbor's house because he didn't like his neighbors.
Yeah,
so.
I mean,
okay, cool.
It's ridiculous. There's currently a court case out there that will hopefully one day settle this whole thing. Whether or not Trump had any right to do this, but TikTok's U.S. assets will be sold. It will be going to Oracle and Walmart. That was a combined bid.
Yep.
Walmart is putting up some money and basically financing the whole thing, and Oracle is doing the back end.
Yes. They're going to implement the infrastructure for Walmart to somehow adopt a tech company that makes short form video content for tweens and teens.
I mean, honestly, I think that it's in the business interest of everyone involved to just let TikTok do TikTok.
Yeah.
Just keep making money. Don't get involved. Yeah. This is not a place where the Waltons need to have their fingers in it.
So one thing I learned about
you'll make more money if you just leave it alone. That's
the reason that Walmart.
It's like investing in Colgate or something.
The reason Walmart is bringing in Oracle is because one thing that isn't coming with the sale is the algorithm. So you get access to the algorithm, but you don't get the algorithm. So essentially, they black box it to you, and users are continuing to input stuff, and stuff continues to come out, but you don't know what it is. And so insiders are saying that they only brought in Oracle because they essentially want them to figure out how to feed stuff in and then get predicted results. And that way we'll crack the algorithm and somehow make it's the underpants gnomes. Crack the algorithm, ? Money.
Profit.
Yes. So figure out how that works. But the important part of this story, at least to me, TikTok remains in the store. That's great. However, Oracle was brought on by Walmart. It may be because they wanted to crack the algorithm, or it may be because they wouldn't have successfully sold it or gotten the sale without Oracle. Microsoft, headed not by Bill Gates, but founded by Bill Gates, infamously a left-leaning, trying to vaccinate everyone with microchips, Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Not popular in the Trump camp. However, Larry Ellison, the founder of Oracle, and I think still the CEO, I think founder and CEO, right, of Oracle, goes out on a limb early in 2020 and starts hosting fundraisers for Trump.
Yeah.
Cut to Microsoft learns that their bid will not be accepted, whatever that bid is.
Yeah.
And Oracle...
On antitrust yeah.
Yes, for antitrust reasons that are as yet unclear. And Oracle stays in the game and gets the sale.
Yeah.
And as you can see in this infographic to my left, Larry Ellison holds fundraiser for Trump. Oracle selected as the winner in the sale.
Yeah.
Strange. I would say this is absolutely uncanny, except for we've been saying for the last 6 weeks, you just have to crack how the president works and then manipulate the system to make it work for you.
Well, and, you know, I think that to some who might be listening to us, they think of TikTok as like, oh, this thing that kids are into. TikTok is a billions of dollars a year enterprise at this point.
Yep.
That brings in humongous advertising numbers and has more daily active users on it than Twitter and
Snapchat, anything.
Yeah. I mean,
Facebook.
Basically, Facebook is the only one that was above it. But I think it was, I think it was saying that it was Twitter, like Pinterest, LinkedIn, like 4 or 5 of the next biggest ones
Smaller than
combined.
TikTok. Yes.
Like,
so the problem is Facebook is available in places where TikTok is not available.
Yeah.
So if you look at overall users, yes. If you limit it to the countries where TikTok is available, it's actually bigger than Facebook.
yeah.
But much like the U.S., some countries say, Chinese, no, we're not going to let you have your product in our available in our stores. They're going to come to a harsh reality about Facebook. Turns out everybody's taking your data. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So watch Social Dilemma, leader of all those sub-Saharan African countries.
Yes, that's a very good one.
Yes. All right. What is next? I'm exhausted. Oh, yes. Only the fact that there are several 100,000 dead in a tragedy that is ongoing.
Several hundred, 200,000 to be specific.
Yes.
Yes. I never imagined when we first came into social distancing and stay-at-home orders and everything like that the election would be anything except for coronavirus. But
thanks, Trump.
It turned out it was wrong because we also got the death of RBG and a whole bunch of other shit just piled on top of everything.
It's a nice shit stack that we're all going to be forced to eat.
But at the very bottom of that shit stack is the fact that nothing has been done about the coronavirus, and other places are living life. I mean, I don't know. Europe is getting hit with their second wave now.
Yes.
Which makes people worried that the second wave in the U.S., the official second wave, not the one that looked like the second wave, but rather a continuation of the first.
Well, wait, Corey. I have to interrupt you right there because as you will see from this video that I'm going to play for everyone at home, there is no second wave. There is nothing to be afraid of. There is nothing to fear but fear itself. Can you hear it now?
No. But I saw this one, though.
Yes.
And this is one of those real power of local news conversations.
Yes.
Because people who live in small towns will watch the local news every night and will see stories like this where it literally doesn't paint coronavirus as... It only takes the one side of the people who don't want to wear the mask at the anti-mask rally to tell the story of what is happening with coronavirus right now, and ignoring the fact that we are very badly losing to this. Beyond the financial impact that is hitting pretty much literally every single industry in this country, unless it is a digital-first industry.
Well, except for the stock market, because as you know, the only thing that matters, Corey, is the stock market.
See, but the stock market, this is confusing to people who don't know anything about the stock market. And I'm not some brilliant genius on the stock market, so don't take everything I say Oh, all of a sudden I started hearing
Are you
it.
here
The
now?
flu kills more than coronavirus.
Others calling the virus a hoax or stating that asymptomatic carriers simply do not exist and they cannot be forced to wear masks anywhere as citizens of the United States.
I'll tell you another reason I hate masks. Most child molesters love them.
When George Floyd was saying, I can't breathe, and then he died, and now we're wearing a mask, and we say, I can't breathe, but we're being forced to wear it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so I selectively edited that. I'm gonna just admit up front I did. I took out all most of the news sections of it and went cut to just the interview portions of it. That are an 8-year-old boy who has clearly been fed a bunch of information from his parents and then regurgitates that as if it's his own thoughts, which it clearly is not. And I just like to say to all of you flyover countryers who say we don't want the gays teaching our kids because they're going to indoctrinate them in their lifestyle.
Yeah. This kid is indoctrinated.
That kid's pretty goddamn indoctrinated. And the second one, the old lady who, again, is on Facebook and really shouldn't be. Grandma, just turn off the computer. And is getting fed nothing but stories about pedophiles everywhere.
Yeah.
And how now she's getting no mask, corona, pedophiles, and it's just merging into this menagerie of pedophiles started corona to make us wear masks because they love masks. And the last lady who I want to kill everybody who was at that rally. I literally just want to march them all up to the guillotine. Maybe not the kid. Maybe the kid could be saved. Re-education camp for him. But that last lady, to somehow compare you wearing a mask and how that is oppressive to your rights to George Floyd saying, I can't breathe, after having an officer sit on his knee on his neck for 9 minutes. Fuck you. Fuck you and your whole fucking family. And I hope you get corona and I hope that they all die. I hope that corona runs rampant through your family with such force that it ends your bloodline, because only that will be an apt and give justice to what you have said here today.
Well then.
So, yeah. And I think the same about everybody who I see out there without masks. I hope you get corona. I hope that your entire family gets it and that they all die out.
I mean,
so that your bloodlines will cease.
Let me say this.
Throw a little chlorine in the gene pool here and get rid of these maskers. And if I could get my hands on some of the coronavirus, I would come to your house and I would spray you and your children in the face with a water bottle full of Corona water.
So
that wasn't too harsh and controversial, was it?
On the other side of the same exact argument, in the immigration camps that are happening in this country right now.
Sorry, I don't want you to mischaracterize them, Corey. They are concentration camps, place that we are concentrating illegals in.
Well, what makes it a lot like concentration camps is the fact that they're now doing forced sterilization at some of these locations.
Yes.
So that is very Joseph Mengele of the whole thing. And we're so worried and tied into the pedophiles are getting an advantage here, or George Floyd can't breathe and I can't breathe. So this is exactly the same fucking situation. And we're ignoring the idea that right now the U.S. government is in charge of taking away reproductive rights from people who come into this country illegally for no other reason than they came into this country illegally. Like, I can't even...
And listen,
I can't even begin to process. And again, just go back to this fact. Just... one of the first days that students went back to the University of Alabama, there was more cases at the University of Alabama than Canada, the entire country of Canada.
Yep.
Like, how they haven't had a death in a while. They just had I just saw a story. I can't remember how long it's been, but it was like, 2 weeks ago or something like that. They had 0 deaths.
Yep. For a stretch, right?
Yeah. For a couple days, there was no deaths. The cases are an all-time low. They didn't even allow baseball into the country.
Smart.
Because they're like, your plans are not indicative with our plans. So the Blue Jays play in Buffalo because they can't go to Canada. And it's shocking to me that people are... What I think what bothers me most about it, to your point, is that the people who don't wear the mask and go out there and act like idiots...
Yeah.
don't seem to get sick as much.
No, and it burns me up. That's
And
why we need to expose them.
I feel like I've known people who were like, I played by all the rules. I went to one cafe on the sidewalk and I ate for 20 minutes without my mask, and I got it. Bill Plaschke of the LA Times wrote up a whole thing where he's just like, I literally did everything. I didn't even go to the grocery store. My daughter went to the grocery store for me, and then I went out. They were allowing the eating outside, and I went out and I had a meal with some friends, and we were all distanced, and we all thought we did everything correctly, and he got coronavirus.
Yep.
And, again, you never know. Like, one moment where you have your guard down could be the moment that you get it.
Yep.
The one time where you walk into the elevator without your mask, and you're like, oh, I'll be fine, and then another guy walks in without his mask, and he coughs, and you're done. Like, I just, to me, it's so amazing that, like, it would be so much easier if everyone who was denying it got sick. Because I feel like it would just make this whole thing.
So you're supporting my plan to fill a bottle with Corona water and then spray it in people's faces.
I'm not supporting
in
the
face
part where
of
we.
children
I'm not supporting the part where we actively increase the case count by forcing these people to get
Trump
it. Because
is
that's
looking at Sweden and saying, look at what they did, and they did it successfully, and they did. It cost them like 4% of their population was sick and dead, but they've ended it by just purposefully infecting everybody.
For now.
I mean, yes, for now. It's not like it gets cold in Sweden and everyone's going to be forced inside at some point, right? That's not a thing that happens in Sweden.
Yeah.
I don't think. So I forgot what I was going to say, and it was very important. Something about infecting children with coronavirus. I can't remember. Anyway, it's a bad situation.
Should we move on to Bill Barr?
I wanted
more
to
shocking, disgraceful news.
I wanted to find a way to gracefully move into Bill Barr. But nonetheless, yes, Bill Barr. Here you go. Bill Barr, who is as I'll remind everyone, the Attorney General of the United States, which is supposed to make him the people's attorney.
Yes.
Is suggesting that the prosecutor should consider sedition as a charge for those who protest police violence. So, for those of you who may not understand, he is essentially saying...
I seem to remember there being a Sedition Act at one point. Is that,
Alien and Sedition Act, actually. Yes.
Does that have anything to do with this thing? I'm a little bit loose on the term sedition. Maybe you can help fill it in.
Yeah, well, so the Alien Sedition Act was ruled by the Supreme Court to be illegal because we couldn't generalize and say that just because you were from a foreign country meant that you were here trying to be a spy.
Yeah.
So sedition is generally used as the opposite of being a traitor. Someone who's a traitor is someone who is from this country and overtly trying to end the country.
So, I'm from here, but I work with Russia to help bring down America from the inside.
Yes, and sedition has historically been you're from Russia, but you come here, immigrate to be a citizen or to fit in with society, but then try to bring it down. So that's why the Alien Sedition Act was meant to, like, hey, you're from somewhere else and you're trying to bring down our country, so we're going to boot you home.
Yeah.
In the 20th century, sedition and treason kind of got melded together as a more of a manslaughter and murder. So, like, if you try to kill the president, that's treason. If you spray children in the face with coronavirus, maybe just sedition. But apparently also, if you go out and protest police violence against a race of people who are citizens of the United States, also sedition, because reasons.
Yeah.
Perhaps that it is part of the fabric of America to abuse black people, or for the police to abuse black people. Therefore, to protest against that is just anti-American.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that makes sense to me. So the last time we had a large-scale sedition, well, I'm not going to say the last time because it happened after World War I. It happened during the Depression. I think they tried to use the Sedition Act during the Civil Rights protest.
Yeah.
But successfully, the last successful type sedition was during the Civil War, where 11 states broke away, and they said that is seditious because you couldn't use the word treason when they were trying to be their own country. Like, we don't care about you. We just want to be our own country. And they're like, that's not treason because you're not threatening our country, but it's sedition against the country you're supposed to be part of.
Yes.
So Bill Barr is essentially saying there's a civil war going on, and there are people acting as if there's a civil war, so we need to treat them like there's a civil war. And I don't think you want to play that game, Bill Barr. Yeah, I don't think you want to play that game. I'll just leave it at that. I'm bordering on sedition as it is, so we should probably be careful.
It's just a batshit crazy time because this person is our attorney general.
Yes.
And I don't know what you got to do to be impeached around here, to be thrown out of office here. I mean, like,
as I say, you can't. I don't think you could impeach.
I think you can impeach Barr.
High crimes and misdemeanors. So you'd have to find a crime.
I mean, I'm sure we could find something lying around here.
If they didn't stick it on Trump, I doubt they're going to stick it on Bill
I
Barr.
guess so.
He's following the instructions of the president.
Yeah.
All I'm saying, people, is
using taxpayer money to defend himself against a sexual harassment lawsuit that happened before he even started running for president.
At the instruction of the president. So Bill Barr has the what's that Nuremberg defense again? I was just following orders.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the thing that bad cops say. I was just following orders. And they do so unironically, I guess not realizing that was what Nazis said at Nuremberg. All I'm saying is a week ago, I said something along the lines of maybe if they're going to keep acting this way, we should just keep killing them. Is that fair to say? A fair conclusion to that statement?
You know, and it has many of a stream of controversial statements from Rob.
Like spraying children in the face with coronavirus?
Yeah, that's up there too. It's in there. It's up in the greatest hits of controversial Rob statements. But I did.
By the way, I'm running for president. RobGForAmerica.com.
Donate freely. You know, the thing that did make me pique my eye. We didn't talk about this beforehand, but did pique my eye a little bit was how at this moment where 2 deputies were shot.
Yes,
could have been the moment where you said, you know, like, okay, tensions are really high.
Mm-hmm.
You know, cops have done some bad things. People have done some bad things now. Let's try and focus on this one bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll try and bring this community together in some sort of way.
Sure.
Instead,
I did not do that. Nope.
Instead, the LA Sheriff's Department was tweeting out pretty racist shit.
Yep.
Trying to get people to get in on the $100,000 reward that they had, and has polarized shit even more. So, it's amazing how, you know, like whenever something bad has happened in this country, we really rally around historically.
Yes.
I'm saying, like, you know, when Katrina happened.
Yes.
You know, everyone was just like, oh, fucking New Orleans. We can't, you know, we have to rebuild. It's too important.
Except for Kanye.
Well,
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Well, he was making a statement about the politics of the situation. Amazing how much has changed.
Oh, weird. Super weird. Yes.
No, but I mean, like, you know, everyone was just like, oh, we, you know, love New Orleans, support New Orleans, let them rebuild, everything regarding like that. You know, it was like really the whole country came together in that moment. It's happened in Houston and New York and various different places where awful things have happened before. And rarely do you see it where, like, the mayor of New Orleans comes out afterwards and he's just like, you're like, hey, I'm going to ruin this situation. Like,
I thought you were going to.
I hear you have our sympathy. Now here's our disgust.
I thought you were going to go the other direction
No.
about that. Because I think maybe it's on my mind. Did you ever see Queen and Slim?
No, but that was on my list of things to see, and that was pre-Corona.
Yes.
And
Pre-Corona.
I was working at the time. I think I was on the feature at the time when that was out.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Watched it yesterday. And I don't want to. I'm not going to give away anything about. I mean, if you understand what it's about. So it's there's a traffic stop going wrong. Cop gets killed, and then they basically go on the run together. It's their first date, which is awesome. Anyway, so there are some actions taken in their name, which they then publicly say this is not what we intended, which is at the time a very pro-police thing to say, and then they are. It doesn't end well.
Yeah.
I go into that and I say, no matter what we as a society do, they will continue to murder people. And even given the opportunity of a moment to say, you know what? There's been a bad history, but can you be on our side that we lost members of our police department and we are fully on board with, funding changes and making changes in the department, but we need to find this guy and this person, and this could bring us together and find that rally point. And for them just to be like, no, fuck y'all. Yeah, we're going to say a bunch of racist stuff and try to rile the community up instead. I feel like everything I said last week is justified.
I wouldn't say justified.
I mean, of course you wouldn't, but I say that it's justified. So.
But, yeah, moving on. Anywho.
Hey, no, moving on. Because I want to make it clear that last week I said what I said. You should go to last week's episode and check it out. This week I called for children to be sprayed in the face with coronavirus if they've been indoctrinated. Whole families, actually. Ending bloodlines. I'm talking about some real medieval shit. I want bloodlines ended. Chlorine in the gene pool, if you will. And I just want everyone to be prepared for next week, because if Bill Barr said some shit about sedition this week, it's only going to get worse in the next week when they nominate somebody. I'll take you back to the beginning of this episode. Nominate, conflagrate, confirm, burn. And if you're going to be charged with sedition...
Next week when it's Roseanne has been nominated to the Supreme Court of the United States. And Rob has...
Trump ain't never going to nominate Roseanne. Roseanne, yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the one? Rosie O'Donnell's the one he doesn't like.
Right.
Yes, yeah. So it wouldn't be Rosie O'Donnell.
Roseanne got canceled because of her Trump
That's
support.
right,
Yeah.
yes. So maybe it would be fucking Roseanne. If she does get nominated, or any of these other racist people that he's likely to put up, I'm just going to say, if you're already going to be charged with sedition for protesting, give them a reason to charge you with sedition. I can think of a few things. I won't put them out here on this format, but
use your imagination.
The Anarchist Cookbook, widely available online. So just saying, that could give you some ideas.
So, Sportsball, shall we?
Oh, wait, I didn't even have that queued up.
That's all right. That's all right. I threw through it quickly. And just super quick, just a little palate cleanser here at the end, because
the revolution will not be palate cleansed, Corey.
So much of this week has been awful, and so much of this year has been awful, and so much of everything has been awful. Let us at least take a moment, because in earlier times, if the Orioles had the potential of making the playoffs in the last week of the season, we'd talk about it here.
Oh, and if they were doing 23-31 at any point in the season, we would have been very excited about that.
The Orioles are, believe it or not, 4 games out as of before recording, when I last checked the standings. And
the division leading Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah.
Yes,
over the Yankees. But it seems unlikely with the 4 games left in the year that the Orioles will be able to come back. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we have 3 games left with Toronto, who's in front of us for that last playoff spot. And the 4 games that they play before us is the Yankees, and the 3 games we play before Toronto is Boston. And Boston is one of the worst teams in the league. And the Yankees are a playoff team. So, I mean, is there a way that you sweep Toronto and you get one more win in Boston than they do in New York, and all of a sudden you're in the final playoff spot?
Flip those things around. And you don't need to sweep. I guess you do, because every win basically bumps you up 2 games, right? Because it bumps them down a game and you up a game.
Well, you get the full game just on the win.
Rather than the half game, right.
Rather than having to worry about what they do on the other end.
But you have to basically sweep, because you have to catch up the full game plus.
Right.
Plus and up and down.
And I mean, it's, again, not likely, but this is a weird fucking year. Miami might make the playoffs. Yeah. They're right in the thick of it.
Also, I mean, you could get a series win, right? And then if they do really poorly in New York, still... I
really think you need... I mean, if they got swept by the Yankees, then that would help. But I mean, at this point, I think you have to really concern yourself with winning as many games as you can in Boston in hopes to at least get one more game than they get in New York, and then just sweep them to finish up the year. Because if you do, and the Angels, and I can't remember who else is in front of them, but in between us and Toronto, if we all hold steady, or they hold steady, then we could get in. And that's just in exciting things because this team was not expected to be very good. And they
Corey, let me
somehow managed to be close enough to still be in the thick of it at the end of the season.
make a suggestion to you.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay road trip, spray bottles full of coronavirus. What do you think? Is that
See, now you're taking this too far because they did nothing. They're not anti-maskers. They're fine. Now I think you just want to do it because you want to sow a little chaos. I don't even think it's a political statement at this
do
point.
I look like the kind of guy who has a plan? I just do things.
So there's that. Next week we'll know whether or not the Orioles made the playoffs or not, and probably not. But worth mentioning. The Ravens, of course, 2 weeks in, looking great.
How you feeling about that bet that you would have placed on the Orioles at the beginning of the year at 1,000-1 or whatever?
I mean, I would probably be watching every single game with a little bit more anxiousness, but I don't think it's likely that the Orioles, even if they made the playoffs, would go very far in the playoffs, and that has always been a concern.
Yeah.
But I also said, I think at the time, like, you never know what the fuck's going to happen. Maybe just somebody gets sick right before you play them.
Yep.
And
maybe somebody gets sprayed in the face with a water bottle and like strange liquid. I don't know.
I think that what is going to be fascinating, though, is the MLB playoffs are sort of doing like a mixed bubble situation.
Yeah.
So the AL is going to play the opening rounds in Dodger Stadium and in San Diego, and the final in San Diego, while the National League is going to play in Arlington and somewhere else I can't remember. But the World Series will happen in Arlington, so it won't be traveling around kind of thing anymore.
Oh, so a semi-bubble, not the NBA, but
no, not the full shutdown and bubble situation, but sort of a mini bubble where a couple teams are all in the same location.
Yeah.
It could be very interesting, and I wouldn't necessarily rule anything. Weirder things have happened.
Yeah.
For instance, if I made you guess what the Stanley Cup Finals is right now, you're not a hockey fan at all.
I'm not.
You have a casual understanding of the teams and the cities that are involved.
So Stanley Cup is Major League Soccer,
National Hockey League,
auto racing. I'm trying to remember. It's not really a sport. What was it? Which sport is it?
Hockey.
Hockey. Hockey. Right. Okay. Yeah.
It's the world's most famous trophy. So.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it
the Stanley Cup?
Isn't the World Cup trophy the world's most famous trophy?
But that one circulates. They make a new one every time.
No, there was one stolen in 1977.
Well, I know, but hypothetically, if you go to Brazil and you look at all their World Cups,
yes,
it's just like 5 of them in a whatever it is, 4 or 5 of them in like a display case somewhere. Like the Stanley Cup is one trophy that you get.
Well, whoever that Stanley guy was real famous, I guess.
Yeah, Lord Stanley.
Oh, he was a lord?
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense because reasons.
He bought the cup. That's why his name is on it.
Ah, okay. I know so much about hockey. So given that, let me say hockey is a winter sport. So I'm going to assume New York versus a Canadian team. I don't know, but maybe somebody from Saskatchewan or Alberta. Are there any hockey teams there?
Like Calgary?
Calgary, yes. Calgary versus New York, but not city. That's too far south. Maybe Buffalo.
So Buffalo versus...
Sabres versus Flames.
Yeah.
Is that right? Calgary Flames?
Yeah.
Hey, I pulled that out of somewhere.
Yeah, that would be a pretty good guess. And I imagine a lot of people would say something like that. Cold weather places.
Yes.
In the Stanley Cup final.
Yes.
But interestingly enough, it is Tampa versus Dallas in the Stanley Cup final. And I mention it for no other reason. I haven't really been watching the playoffs that much. I watched the Caps get eliminated, and then I was just like, I'm done with this. And then I saw that Golden Knights were still in it in the Western Conference Finals, and I watched like a quarter of the game or a period, and I was just like, oh, they're losing. Never mind. I'm done. So I don't really know exactly who's favored or anything like that, but just the idea that it's Tampa versus Dallas like filled my mind with all these amazing possibilities of like, if I told you that the 100-meter relay, like in the Olympics, was Bjorn Jorgensen versus Vitaly Kirilenko, you would be like, that doesn't sound right. That's not 200-meter runners.
Was there some sort of incident that happened in earlier heat?
Where is Usain Bolt
Yes.
and what did you do with him? Like, you would just be like, this doesn't make a lot of fucking sense. I don't think there's ever been a Russian who's ever made it anywhere close to the 100-meter finals.
Here's what I'm going to say, and I just realized it right now. I just joined QAnon. So what you're telling me is that the Stanley Cup is Dallas versus Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And the World Series is going to be held in Arlington, part of the Arlington-Fort Worth-Dallas Metroplex.
Yeah. It's kind of like Phoenix where every city is just Phoenix.
Yes.
Like it's just all of Arizona is Phoenix.
Yes.
But technically you're in Scottsdale, even though it's an hour and a half away from Phoenix,
Doesn't
but
matter,
it's still
it's
Phoenix.
Yeah. So Arlington's going to be the home of the World Series, and there's a chance it's the home of the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, close
and
enough, yeah.
Tampa Bay is now somehow leading the AL East, and they may end up playing a game in the World Series in Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington.
Yeah.
I just joined QAnon. That's what I'm
That's
saying.
enough. That's all the that's all the things I need.
I don't know how this benefits the Democrats or pedophiles or both, but I'll figure out how, and I'll bring it to you on the next episode.
But if you're a sports fan, just take a little time this week, maybe as a distraction away from all the awfulness that is the world right now, and say to yourself, like, whatever your favorite sport is. I did this for Roberto and the World Cup. I was just like, what are the two most unlikely teams that could end up in the World Cup? Like, what if you were in a coma and you woke up and they were just like, today's the World Cup final, and you like snapped out of the bed and you're just like, who's playing? And then somebody said
USA versus Russia, and you're like, what?
Neither one of them deserve to be there. It's like when Jamaica had a bobsledding team. Like,
First of all,
the unlikeliness of the whole thing.
They worked very hard, and they absolutely deserved it.
They
all
didn't
right?
have the benefit of snow.
Yes.
They still made it happen.
They didn't even have snow. They had to sit in a freezer. The guy snapped off his dreadlock. Feel the rhythm. Feel the rhyme. Get on down. It's bobsled. See, they had a nice little chime rhyming thing.
I'm not saying that Jamaica is excluded from the Winter Olympics. I'm just saying that when things like this happen, it's very unlikely and it's very fun. So, think about what your most unlikely matchups are, because I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear somebody's like. It'd be like if you said like the cricket finals are this weekend, and it's Albuquerque versus Sheboygan, and you're
for
just
the
like
world
cricket championship, and you're just like,
no.
Australian rules rugby is Brazil versus versus Mexico, and you're just like,
no.
I mean, it could happen, I guess. I don't know. It just seems
I don't know anything about
seems
rugby.
unusual.
Yes.
That the Australian rules rugby would be
some
two Central American countries.
Something that's not as unlikely, though. Kansas City and Baltimore, both doing really well in the start of their seasons. Likely to be AFC Championship.
That would be nice.
Looking at a preview of the AFC Championship again.
Yeah, on Monday.
Yeah.
And just as a quick note, we may, we're still deciding this, but we may push our record date to Tuesday next week so that we can get in post debate.
Well, for two reasons. One, Kansas City, Baltimore.
Yeah, watch the Ravens game on Monday night.
And also then Tuesday is the debate. And while I don't care, and I think that you should set your ballot aflame before dropping it into it. Don't do that. That's a crime, actually.
Crime.
Yeah. I'm likely to not vote. Hypothetically, you could set your ballot aflame and then drop it in the mailbox. Corey is very invested because he thinks that there's hope for the Republic, while I'm just waiting for the guillotines and the White Terror to start. So
it's not so much I'm hopeful or anything like that. It's just that if we record a show on Monday and then they have a debate on Tuesday, pretty much everything we say on the show on Monday just feels kind of null and void at that point. So
well, here's a preview of
so it's like, why don't we wait one more day so we can include the debate coverage into it, and then
I'm gonna give you a preview of the debate or the post-debate discussion. Joe Biden, factually accurate on everything, lost the debate because Trump's like, and they're like, how dismissive he was. It was powerful. It was powerful how he dismissed.
We made good gifts today.
Actual facts and evidence do not matter to the American people. Joe Biden's out of touch.
Who has the best GIF?
Yes. Yeah. So
GIF game strong.
Yeah. Again, little chlorine for the old gene pool would be very nice.
You know where else GIF game strong?
Where's that?
OTheAnthem.com. Corey at OTheAnthem.com. Ooh, Corey at OTheAnthem.com. O The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line 443-219-7595.
What's the number again?
443-219-7595. Did you see how I dipped into Roberto there, where I was just like in the middle of the line and I messed it up and I'm like, ooh.
Yes.
Yeah. He's not listening. He's got his headphones on.
Playing Warzone.
You can find more of me at my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and at LegendCB5 on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Working on new video stuff, but I swear it's coming. I'm taking more of a 1,000-yard view on this thing, so be ready for it. Fast and the Furious when it comes. Not the movie, just the content.
Yeah.
But yeah, check out my website in the meantime.
Yep. Corey's taking that 1,000-year view on it, so
All I think about is like, what if I'm Scorsese one? I don't want to be going into a meeting with Disney and they just went like, so we saw your Milan review, and I'm just like, okay, well, I'll see myself out.
Did you post a Mulan review?
No.
Oh, I thought you did. We talked about Mulan. I thought you were going to post a review about it.
Yeah, I recorded one and thought better of it. So
Funny thing about that, Everyman Movie Review continues 2 reviews per week.
No matter
In fact,
what.
This Thursday, Mulan review. So you can make sure you check that out. I also just did a review of some older movies. Richard Jewell of Vivarium has been up recently. Palm Springs has been up recently. They've been 2 very popular ones. And I have An American Pickle coming up. Queen and Slim coming up in the next few episodes. So make sure you check that out. Everyman Movie Review on social media. And you can find it on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Rob Cheek, where you can also find other videos and fun stuff that I do. Website, robertncheek.com. All social media at Robert N. Cheek. I also, of course, do the Rob Explains, which is a daily podcast about stuff that I find interesting, weird, random. And you can learn a little something, have a little, I would say it was a water cooler conversation, but we don't have a water cooler anymore. So a little pre-Zoom call conversation about like, hey, did you hear about this thing? Let me tell you and make you sound smart. That's what it's for. So yeah, while Corey takes the 1,000-year view, I'm producing a brand new podcast episode every single day, 2 movie reviews every single week, something new on social media every single day as well. So, yeah, if you're looking for new content, you know where to go.
Come find Rob.
Hey.
All right, well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. Oh, by the way, also, TikTok is here to stay for the time being. So you can find Corey on TikTok at LegendCB5.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Robert and Cheek on TikTok. And I would tell you to go check out RTO.AZN on TikTok, but he doesn't make any content. So what's the point? Oh, I'm sorry. RTO.AZN. So you can go follow him for the empty profile. I'm sorry, no, the 2 videos of
The
my
2
friend
things he's
speaking
posted.
Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah, so join him for that. So go ahead. One more time.
I think we've done good here today.
Oh, I think we've done excellent today. We've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network, of which Rob Explains is a part. Make sure you check that out. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
AC blast off.